Hello and welcome to my 5.2 Rogue class guide. In this video we'll be covering all the things you need to know to perform well as a rogue in Mists of Pandaria, and most importantly, 5.2. A lot has changed from Cataclysm to Pandaria. We can't brute force our enemies down anymore. Changes to our self-healing and baking a lot of our damage into Eviscerate has turned us into a less obnoxiously overpowered class. We're not the powerhouse tanks that we used to be. Patience and planning, alongside good knowledge of enemies to predict their moves, will open up opportunities to score kills much more often. Smart use of cooldowns, awareness of diminishing returns, good energy pooling, and combo point management will improve your killing potential vastly. In this video we cover the basics first. What's changed with 5.2, stat priority and how to gem, talents and glyph analysis, and then we'll wrap things up with some basics of Mist's rogue PvP, alongside some simple macros. But first, we're going to cover the changes 5.2 brought us. First, and probably the biggest change for us, Preparation is now a baseline ability for all rogues. This spell no longer resets the cooldown on Cloak of Shadows, but to compensate, Cloak's cooldown has been reduced to 1 minute, down from 2. Replacing Preparation's spot is Cloak and Dagger. This talent is very interesting, granting your stealth abilities a 30-yard range and teleporting you to your target on use. This talent works with Shadow Dance, making it an extremely attractive choice for sub. Burst of Speed also got a buff. Its energy cost has been reduced to 30. It no longer breaks stealth. It always grants the movement speed application in addition to breaking all snares. However, it no longer breaks roots. Shadow Focus cut a slight nerf by 25%. To compensate, they buffed Vigor, which is an overall buff for me as a subterfuge user. Vigor now increases our maximum energy by 30 instead of 10. Alongside this is a 1% increase to our Recuperate when wearing our PvP gloves. To compensate for the glove change, our kick is now free. Nerve Strike now also reduces healing dealt by the target by 10%, in addition to its old effects. Blind's cooldown has been increased to 2 minutes, up from 1.5, and Smoke Bomb now reduces damage taken by 20% for the duration of the cloud. Shuriken Toss and Deadly Throw both got some love. Shuriken Toss now triggers a weird auto attack thing. Alongside this, Deadly Throw now has the interrupt aspect of it tied to 3+ combo points, so you don't have to do it with 5. You can do it with 3 or more and you'll still interrupt, which is pretty sweet. The only downfall about the Shuriken Toss change is that it no longer triggers your utility poison, which I felt was my favorite reason for using Shuriken Toss, applying Cripple or getting a last stack of paralytic poison on a target. Assassination actually seen some pretty substantial damage increases here. The damage on Dispatch was increased by 15%, and the damage on Envenom was also increased by 20%. Combat got 5% flood attack power from Vitality, while Sub gained another 4% damage while a bleed is applied on our target. Last up is Marked for Death. This spell instantly generates 5 combo points on our target on a minute cooldown. My favorite aspect of this spell not necessarily is what it does, but how it sounds. Check this out. Good old Cold Blood sound. Now that you're completely up to speed with what's changed in 5.2, let's take a look at stat priority and how to gem. For gems, you should be going as much resilience as possible. I'll include a link in the description that explains the math behind this choice, but as it stands, resilience scales too well to pass up. Here's how I choose to gem. Get every set bonus that's resilience in every socket, even if you're getting that socket's bonus. In my gear I have 3 Lucent Vermilion Onyx, 1 in my helmet, 1 in my chest, 1 in my legs, 1 Vivid Jade, which is in my legs, and 8 Mystic Sun's Radiance. However, I have 2 extra gems than you because I am a blacksmith, so keep that in mind. For meta gems, I've opted to take the powerful Primal Diamond, which reduces stun duration by 10%. Some people like to take the Agile Primal Diamond, which has 216 agility and 3% critical strike damage. And there's also a new meta gem option coming up in this patch, which grants us PvP power and resilience. Though I haven't heard many details about it, so we're going to have to wait till this is live probably to figure out how to get that ourselves. Stat priority as a rogue is pretty straightforward. We want to be getting our 3% hit, as well as our expertise caps. Now I opt to not cap parry because most classes that have parry chance actually have more than the cap due to their strength bonus. So I generally just go for the dodge expertise cap to stop casters from dodging my abilities. Now once we've reached our caps, we're going to be focusing on mastery first, followed by critical strike, and then haste. This item here is a perfect example of how we should be reforging. You'll notice that I reforged the haste into critical strike while leaving the mastery alone. Here we have critical strike and mastery. I leave both of these stats alone because they're our primary stats. Again, here we see I have haste and mastery. I've reforged the haste into critical strike. Following that basic order of reforging your haste into something else more useful for you, whether it be hit or expertise if you're trying to make the caps, or crit if you just need some more basic damage. Now that we understand our gearing choices, we can begin to talk about some talent selections. In the first tier, we focus on stealth. Subterfuge and shadow focus are our only two viable options here. Subterfuge. This talent offers us safer openers alongside some unique opening styles. Shadow focus. This talent grants us more powerful openers by leaving us with more energy to spend due to the reduced cost on stealth abilities. Subterfuge and shadow focus both have their uses and are great choices. I encourage you to try them out and see which one fits your playstyle the best. The second tier has some unique choices as well. Deadly Throw now interrupts on 3 or more combo points, making this talent slightly more attractive. This talent really shines in situations where you can't reach your target. In conjunction with Shuriken Toss, Deadly Throw can make a rogue very annoying for ranged casters to deal with. Nerf Strike adds a 50% damage reduction and 10% healing reduction for 6 seconds when either your cheap shot or kidney shot fades. This talent shines against cleaves that Mongolage your healer or teammates. While this talent is also good for self-defense, combat readiness is often the stronger choice, but many players will switch off you at one stack, leaving Nerf Strike better. Combat readiness is a very powerful self-defense tool. Teams that don't switch off you will have very little chance of scoring a kill. However, if you aren't struck for 10 seconds, the effect will fade. A lot of the time, skilled players will just swap off you when you pop this. The third talent tier. I'm very biased on this tier and will only focus on one talent, Elusiveness. This talent adds a 30% damage reduction aspect to Feint. This has become a mandatory rotational spell for nearly all rogues. A flat 30% damage reduction available all the time is a very powerful tool. Keeping Feint up when you're being focused or worried about being switched to is very important and will greatly improve your survivability as a rogue. The fourth tier. This tier has grown very interesting with the latest patch. Cloak and Dagger. This talent adds a 30-yard range to all of your stealth abilities, teleporting you to your target, unless you are rooted or you're out of their line of sight. Shadowstep's new friendly targeting aspect is a godsend. It's gotten me out of sticky situations many times. Using Shadowstep in creative ways is covered a little bit more in the macro section. The fifth tier. A good variety of talents here. One for damage, one for a stun on a separate diminishing return, and another for free use of Gouge. Prey on the Weak. This talent is a unique one. While you cheap shot or kidney shot an enemy, they take 10% increased damage from all sources. This, in conjunction with Master of Subtlety and all your procs, makes for some deadly openers. Paralytic Poison. Here we have a stacking poison. Once it reaches 5 stacks, your target will be stunned for 4 seconds. You'll need to be mindful of your stacks in order to avoid overlapping your stuns though. This poison also has a 4-second root effect if shivved onto your target. The sixth tier offers us some new ranged potential, burst power, and a way to smooth out our combo points. Shuriken Toss now adds a ranged auto attack for 10 seconds after use. However, they removed the application of our utility poison, which kinda makes this change a negative for me. With Marked for Death, you can bring some serious burst to players in the opener. When you first open, all of your internal cooldowns are ready to proc. That alongside Master of Subtlety, Prey on the Weak, Subterfuge, I've seen over 200,000 damage worth of eviscerates in the open. Anticipation lets you generate 5 combo points as charges on yourself. Doing this can be helpful to smooth out your rotation, or save up for big bursts in a different way. This talent works very well with Shadow Blades, helping you not waste combo points during its duration. Glyphs are honestly very straightforward for rogues. I feel that Blind and Cheap Shot are pretty much mandatory, where if you're playing with a Blanket Silence already, you can swap out Gurrout, but if you don't have a Blanket Silence on your team, I highly suggest using this one. Coming up are the very basics of rogue PvP. As a rogue, you're looking for ways to efficiently DPS and CC your enemies. In order to efficiently DPS, we need to be mindful of Sanguinary Vein, which adds a 20% damage bonus whenever we have Rupture or Gurrout on our targets, as well as Energetic Recovery, which generates 8 energy every 2 seconds while Slice and Dice is active. Keep in mind that our energy regeneration is no longer tied to Recuperate. To efficiently CC, we need to watch our diminishing returns, so that we don't stun or silence when it's not worth doing so. Add-ons like Gladius or Tell Me When can be used to track these. With efficient DPS and CC comes the need to properly coordinate and time your CC with your burst to maximize the effectiveness of your play. With these 3 things, alongside smart use of your defensive cooldowns, you will greatly improve as a rogue. For macros, I have a very in-depth guide covering how to set up Arena 1, 2, 3 macros, focus cast macros, and how stances work for rogues. I have some simple Mark for Death macros and friendly Shadow Step macros here that I'm going to put in the description for you all. I highly suggest you take the time to check out the macro video. Arena 1, 2, 3 and focus cast macros will greatly help you in Arena. Here's a link for you all. Until next time, my friends, see you guys in 5.2. I hope the information here has helped you prepare to stab some fools as soon as the realms come.